In the Carabao Cup, we were
Yep.
in the lead 2-0 against West Ham, and we lost it. Yesterday in the FA Cup, we were in the lead, and we lost it. So all three cup competitions that we were in this season, we had leads in one-off games, and we couldn't see it out.
Yep.
And that's a disturbing trend, if I'm honest.
I made the same tweet as well, the same observation that we were ahead in all three games.
Yeah, we were looking for leaders on the pitch yesterday. We needed pace, we needed power, we needed purpose in our play. And if you remember last week, Chairs, when I said you called it the prophecy, when I likened the 5-3 win a few years ago against Chelsea's Mourinho, and then he stifled us in the Carling Cup final, it happened exactly the same again.
And I brought that up to everyone at the pub yesterday.
Yeah.
I could not escape that same feeling. I've been thinking about it all week, and it's happened again.
Yeah, we played them off the park in the league a couple of months back, and then this time around, Mourinho just set his team up in such a way that he stifled us.
So let's talk about that, because if you look at our league defeats this season, not once did we have the lead and throw that away. There are probably some games in there where we had the lead and drew, but what is the difference between Mourinho, because he's done it twice to us now, and probably countless other managers, and Pochettino? Is it a mental adversity, a mental weakness? Is Pochettino not as good as we think he is? Is his tactical awareness not as strong as we think it is or should be? Why are we struggling in these big matches to push and get the result we need?
The players. I don't think you can put it on Pochettino. I think it's the players when we give up.
He's got to set them up.
He does. He sets them up, and look how we came out in this match. We started very energetic out of the gates. We were killing them the first 20 minutes. We dominated this game in the beginning. Then they get an equalizer, and the players, their mentality goes down. It's not Pochettino out there. He set us up, and we started this game perfectly. I don't think you can put that on Pochettino. It's the players, their mental fortitude going away when we give up an equalizer, and then they get their goal to take the lead, and there was just no energy in the second half after they took the lead.
Respectfully disagree, because I don't think he knows how to adjust when the game plan fails. He didn't do it yesterday. He didn't do it against Juventus, and I think it's a worrying trend.
I suspect it's partly a bit of both, guys.
Yeah.
I think where Man United adjusted their tactics after the first 20-25 minutes because we were being dominant, and they effectively clogged up the centre of the pitch and were showing us out wide, effectively. And we weren't exploiting those wide spaces. We don't have the Kyle Walker and the Danny Rose of 2016. Our fullbacks are decent, serviceable guys, but they're not the kind of guys that are going to offer us much going down the sides. And whereas Heung-min Son was having some joy early on, he wasn't getting it at some point, and he started to drift in field, and our tactics kind of just got stifled, and it looked like we were running out of ideas. And obviously with Dembele not breaking through like we know he can do, and with Harry Kane being pretty anonymous, in all fairness, there weren't too many people that were then stepping up to try and take the lead. It was only really, in my eyes, Eriksen was the one who was trying to, take the game on, but we just lacked something. So I think part of it's down to the players, and part of it's also on Pochettino. Perhaps he needed to have the courage of his convictions to maybe withdraw Kane and place Sonny up top and bring Lamella on. Or maybe he should have done the Wanyama Dembele switch a lot sooner. He could have easily also gone three at the back, perhaps. If they were showing us the wide areas, then go three at the back, drop Dyer into the central area with Sanchez and Jan, and then push Trippier and Davies further forward. But that didn't really happen. It was just a bit of a muddle. I mean, we ended up with Jan Vertonghen playing left back at some point in the game, and you knew by then that we were running out of ideas. So I think it's a little bit of both. But the mental attitude of the players has to be called into question. And this whole thing about losing leads in one-off games, that's the hurdle we need to overcome. A lot of people are saying it's because we don't have the better players that can get us over those hurdles because we don't pay the wages. And then you get into this whole argument again about transfer strategy and wages and everything else. But we have capable players there, and maybe they will evolve into these expert players. But Mourinho, on the other hand, has tetchy, nasty little players like Herrera, who should have been booked a lot earlier in the game. Time-wasting players. He has Valencia, who should have seen red for a second challenge. Things like that, they just break up the game constantly. But most of the second half, you would have seen after they went 2-1 up, most of the game was stop rather than start. And whereas Pochettino wanted to continue playing his beautiful game or however he sees it, Mourinho was playing a whole different game that we didn't adapt to.
Yeah, and it's important to recognize too that in a matter of a few inches, this discussion could be very different. 2 minutes into extra time into the first half, just before the whistle blew, Dyer hits the post on a very improbable shot, and if that ball moves maybe 2 or 3 feet off the post in a different direction, we're there for the rebound as well. So there were a couple of opportunities right in that instance that may have allowed us to capture a late goal in the first half and could have maybe put this to bed a little bit. And then Eriksen had that wonderful knuckleball swerving shot that took out a couple of water bottles just outside the post, but again about a foot to the right, and we're talking a very different story here. One of the discussions I know, Tim, down at the pub yesterday was the starting 11 was the starting 11, especially the attacking and defending players. The one player, obviously, that wasn't there was Lloris, and we had Vorm in net. There was a lot of discussion and a lot of, argument and discussion about would it have made a difference to start Lloris in terms of either one of the goals that were conceded. And I know that you didn't feel that it would have made a difference.
Yeah, I didn't feel it would have made a difference. I mean, that first goal, I don't see how you put that on Vorm when it's that perfect cross by Pogba and Sanchez just hits it opposite side of the goal from him. I don't see how he gets to that. The second one, I mean, there's 4 defensive errors there. A missed touch by Lukaku that just goes right in the direction or right in the path of Herrera, and he shoots it in between Davies' legs, so Vorm sees it late because he's blinded from it. He doesn't expect that shot to be coming through Davies' legs. So I don't think you can put any of those directly on Vorm. And, I mean, let's be honest. Given how Hugo has played these last couple of matches, would he have done different? Everyone's on Twitter clamoring after last week's game about how we need to look for Hugo's replacement. Hugo's committing so many errors. We need to move on. We need to think about starting Vorm. We need to think about another option. And now this happens, 2 goals that you can't even put on errors by Vorm. Maybe they could have been stopped. Maybe they couldn't. They're not his fault directly. You can't put them solely on him. And now everyone's saying, oh, well, it's Poch's fault because he didn't start Hugo.
It's easy to talk with hindsight, isn't it, fellas? Yeah, it's what fans tend to do. But Pochettino has to make those choices pre-game.
But I mean, the choice aside, I'm just looking at those 2 goals. I don't think you can put those directly on Vorm and say, yeah, that was a keeper error. Those goals were his fault. I don't agree with that.
I don't know. I think he maybe could have done a little bit better with the second one. I get what you're saying about how it went past Davies and maybe he didn't see it. But, last year, Lloris did play against Chelsea and was probably at fault for a couple of their goals. So shit happens in football. If you think back, I mean, Man United, how many chances did they actually have in yesterday's game? Probably those 2 alone, wasn't it?
There wasn't many. I mean, we didn't have many either. I don't know if you heard this, or it was on the broadcast for us. I think it was around the 82nd minute, and they announced that De Gea just had his first save. The 82nd minute.
Yeah, second half we were abysmal. We didn't create hardly any chances. Most of our best chances came in the first half with Eriksen and Son in particular. But yeah, there weren't many for us either, I agree. Anyway, moving on. Where's Ken?
Yeah, well, Ken, we've kind of left you, mate. Sorry. Get a grip. This wouldn't have happened on my watch, mate. Oh, we've lost him.
We've lost him. Carry on, Ches.
Oh, okay. So, where were we? All right,
We were bitching and moaning. That's where we were.
No. I've just reviewed the questions we've got, so I think we can expand on this when we bring up some of those questions. But let's talk about the post-match commentaries, especially what Poch said, with me or another. Everyone's latched onto that because he's never said anything like that. What does that mean to you, Tim?
That he's frustrated.
Is there anything to read into it? I mean,
I think it means that he's losing his patience. This is the first time we've ever really seen him like this frustrated after a loss. I mean, he's been upset before, but I mean, this loss has taken a toll on him too. This was a chance at Silverware, our last chance this season at Silverware. We've got to wait a whole nother year now for it. And I think it's just signaling.
Well, we might win the ICC in the summer.
That doesn't mean shit. I think he's. Well, I mean, we did win that little trophy in Asia 2 summers ago. That I forget who it was.
Let's not
threw it up in the air. But
didn't Vincent Janssen lift that trophy?
Yes, that's what it was. Janssen threw it up in the air like we had just won the league.
Yeah, that's our Aaron Ramsey moment right there, lifting preseason trophies. Don't be that player.
Wow.
But I mean, going back to it, with me or another, I mean, I think it's saying look, let's step this shit up, or I might not re-sign a new contract.
Well,
we know he's going to see out. Yeah, he's going to see out his contract, but it's what we do between now and the end of his current contract that really determines, is he going to move forward with this club. And I think it's just saying, Levy, I make stars out of these bargain buys. I deal with you waiting until the very end of the summer, the end of the transfer window, to bring in these players that it takes me 8 months to adapt to my style. Aurier still hasn't even adapted. I don't know if he ever will. But it's saying, listen to me. Let me make a decision. Let's do it my way this summer and see how it goes moving forward. We're at a make or break point right now. We don't.
Well, it could have been a veiled message, couldn't it?
I think it was. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. If you wanted context, I mean, we weren't there. He could have just been saying that this club has got to continue on this path, which is what he did say. Yeah. Whether it's with me or another guy.
Well, no. So the context, right before it, he was talking about being able to compete with the cities and the Uniteds, and I think you can read into that talking about finances, what they're spending, because that's what he was talking about right before. Because it was kind of a long rant by him, and it was at the very end of it. Because I went back, I looked at the transcript that Alistair had put out there, and he's talking about being able to compete with City United. How are we going to compete in these games? We're not expected to be the ones to win it. I think he's talking about money. I think it's about dollar bills, y'all.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I think if you're looking at our transfer dealings, then in all honesty, of the last few, not that much success. I mean, you're looking at Llorente was an unmitigated failure. Janssen was a failure. Sissoko hasn't been much better. Aurier has been so far pretty awful. We're not having much joy on the transfer front. Maybe
Sanchez.
We do need to be a bit better there, and maybe this wasn't a message. Who knows?
It's interesting also to note too. We have to accept and understand as Spurs fans. And look, anybody can go and win an FA Cup. We've seen championship teams, get to the final and have an opportunity. But in the big scheme of things, when you look at the financial pecking order, if you will, of the Premier League, we're still, 5th, 6th, somewhere in there, and punching way above our weight to be finishing 2nd or 3rd in the league in recent years. It's hard as Tottenham fans to accept the fact that we're punching above our weight and we don't deserve more. We're actually overachieving. And is that acceptable? Is that from a Spurs fan's perspective, is that acceptable? I know from Pochettino's perspective, getting